Hey, yeah, what's up? This Disciple Marshall Occurrence Rain back up in this anti-Illuminati all day, anti-Freemason all day, anti-witchcraft all day, anti-witch all day, anti-warlock all day, anti-psychic all day, anti-telepath all day, anti-gang stalker all day. So this video is going to be about if black people had a mob, what would be the unique situation is if we had a mob, that mob, if it was dating back into 1960s, 70s, started around that area, from the 60s to the 80s, somewhere around in there. That mob would have had to go to war with white America. Okay, um, I'm not condoning a mafia. I'm not condoning a mob, but a mob doesn't necessarily have to be gangster, but gangster. Meaning they don't have to be involved with all the street stuff and all the street politics and all of that and everything like that. Even drug selling. You know, let's understand that. But they can be armed and trained like a militia that looks out for the better good of the community, the black community. If we would have had an official, an official black mafia, African American mafia, that would have tore racism apart in America. And but what I look at is I'm gonna say why we never did. The reason why we never did is because of part of circumstances and mentality. The circumstances were so harsh in the 60s with all that was going on, and we lost Martin Luther King Jr., we lost Malcolm X, and that was a blow to the community. That strike fear in many people too, as far as organizations and just standing up in general. But just look at that, right? And look at the poverty, look at all of that. Okay, so that's part of the reasons why it didn't crystallize, you know. And just as time went by, as you know, crack came, and then the drug scene came, and everything like that, right? And it just made a mafia for the black community less realistic, because everyone became more desperate. It kept a desperate measure, a desperate temperature on the community. A desperate climate was in the air. You know what I'm saying? And drugs created that. Drugs is ironically is part of the reason why we didn't have a mafia. Drugs, the harsh conditions of the ghetto, just how that beat people down, and changed their quality. The quality of the people were based on the dog eat dog circumstances and reality. So it was part of that that kept people from having the quality to have the mafia or have a mafia. All the whole circumstances played a role in that. You know what I'm saying? Because some people didn't care, and they just became their environment. They became as the environment. The dog eat dog situation, they became that. And that kept a bulk of the community from even being able to form an official mafia with different chapters. If there had been a mob, the first war, what would have made us unique from most mafias all around the world, which would be that we would have had to go to war with white Americans. And not just physically. We would have had to go to war in the judicial system. The black mafia would have had to go to war with whites in the law system, the job, the workforce, those two areas, law and workforce, and better wages for blacks in general. That's what the black mafia would have went to war for. Okay. Uh, Also protection from police, that the police institution, that would have been another war that the black mafia had to fight. Those three things, the law system in general, uh, and the police, and what else? What else? What else? Just also the white pot, just all this stuff that we face, all the stuff that's in the workforce. That's what the other one was, the workforce. But basically, all the rewiring of the society. Okay. Now, for people that don't understand what a mafia is, let me go back to that, because you've heard the term mafia, which means basically family. That's what it means. Okay. Mafias are everywhere. I think it's an Italian word, but it's used to describe the an unorthodox organization of ethnicity and of region. Country, meaning country and ethnicity. A mob or a mafia can represent an ethnicity and a country. Okay, so there's you got the Chinese mafia, you got the Russian mafia, you got anywhere there's a country, there's a mafia. That's the best way to describe it. Everywhere there's a country, there is a mafia. Okay? So when you understand that, you will see everything clearly, and you'll see why we didn't have one here in America, because that's another struggle for us to have organized. That's another fight against us from having organized situation. So white people was not going to let us form a mafia. Okay, so you got to understand that. It's safe to say racist people would not want a black mafia here. Safe to say, right? So understand what it is. It can be a crime underworld of every country, and connected to different ethnicities, ethnicities having different crime underworlds or mafias. So you can have one country that have more than one mafia. You can have a country mafia, and then uh, uh, ethnicities having their own mafias in that country. Perfect example is America. Okay, you got the Italian mafia, that was the main mafia here. Okay, they went about everything for their own people. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it was really all about. It was about organizing things for their own people. That mafia did not sell drugs in the beginning. For people that don't know, the Italian mafia did not sell drugs in the beginning. In fact, they punished people, and I think even killed people that did sell drugs, because it was about preserving their people, their ethnicity, the Italians. That's what it was about. It wasn't about shooting up everybody and all of that. That was a byproduct of the mob, the mafia. It wasn't the forefront. And see, what we do as the black community, we put war to the forefront. War is not the forefront. The mafia, they're shooting and all that, and all them Tommy guns going around shooting. that was a byproduct of turf wars and all different things, people crossing them and everything like that. And you could say to a degree that that's what goes on in the hood, but in actuality, it really is more to the forefront of people's mind. That's all they want to do is go to war. You know what I'm saying? Instead of established organizations and everything. The Italian mafia established businesses, bakeries, all types of things. They established all types of things that were non-criminal even. You know, and this explains why uh we never had one, because we was fought from having one, where we would have our own business organizations, everything like that, and it wouldn't have to be criminal all the time, and war wouldn't have to be to the forefront of the agenda, or of the response. And you'll be able to work into the judicial system, the workforce, and you would be able to work, you know, in all these different areas, to where you're able to um, have your ethnicity uh, pulled to the forefront and treated like first class citizens. Unfortunately, I'm not going to say a mafia was necessary. I'm going to cover two situations concerning this. I'm not saying a mafia had to be necessary, but it would have helped us go into the wirings and mechanics and logistics of this country and strong arm our respect with threats and with might. It would have been very life changing for the black community. But here's two reasons why we didn't receive the change here in America, in this empire. The reason why we didn't receive the change is we wasn't spiritual enough to get the change. And it's the truth. We had black churches, okay, yeah, but you got to remember, a lot of times it was racism all that whole time. So unfortunately, a lot of churches, a lot of Christians, black Christians that were here in the earlier times, they were Christians, but they wasn't going to the higher levels of spirituality. You know what I mean? And the churches were burned down, things like that. I don't feel that that's what it was. I don't feel that that's ever what it's been. You know what I'm saying? But we've been Christians, and we've had very spiritual leaders, I believe. But collectively speaking, I believe, were not spiritual enough to get the deliverance. That's what it was. And I definitely can prove this as time went by. By the 70s and the 80s, we were too involved in drugs, and as a collectively speaking, whether we were selling them or doing them, or alcohol or cigarettes and partying, lust, fornication, pimping and tricking and everything like that. It was just too much going on for us to be spiritually focused, and therefore we could not be spiritually delivered. To be spiritually delivered as a nation, as a community, we have to be collectively spiritual. And collectively spiritual enough to bring the true deliverance from this white American community. That's why we were not delivered. Now, if we chose not to be spiritual, and the other way we would have been delivered, it would have been the mafia. The mafia would have been the way that we could have got our deliverance, because we would have strong-armed it. We would have strong-armed the situation, and we would have went into the judicial. It would have been a bloody situation. It would have been, because we would have had to go to war with so many people of power and everything, and just people that just felt that black people are inferior to white people. We would have had to go to war with a lot of people, even including military. And that's what probably would have stopped it. Military, FBI, the usual. They shut down every organization that's black. Meanwhile, white militias and white neo-Nazis get to shoot guns out at country shooting ranges, and they're never brought to any type of incarceration or prosecutions. It's so many white militias, and we found out on January 6th they're out there. Boogaloo and Proud Boys, those was the ones we found out they was out there. But before that, we didn't know. And the FBI does not put no pressure on them. They treat them like the good old college boys just having fun. That's all it is. That's what them halfway racist authorities act like. And them good old college boys sit back and drink a beer. Them good old college boys, leave them alone. Now you see the picture I'm painting. Meanwhile, let black people start an organization. Oh. Did you hear about the what was that? The African Socialist Party? That they raided them. The FBI raided them, saying they had some kind of ties with Russia. I communicated with the African Socialist Party. I called them manually myself to let them know about 43 states of child marriage in America. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't know it. So that's just another example of how high-ranking I am. I've called the African Socialist Party, and I informed them about 43 states. At the time, it was 44 states. 44 states of child marriage in America. And the secretary who was taking my information and did not know of this information. So, as you can see, I'm more serious than you may have first thought. Okay, but the bottom line is anything that is considered a mafia, or we don't really have that. We have groups, and they're not going to let us have a mafia. Excuse me. They would prevent that. They would try to. But what we have basically is people that like are in gangs, and you got to remember gangs did what basically a mafia would do also, which was protect the neighborhoods. Gangs, from my understanding, started out, as far as black people are concerned, as means to protect the neighborhoods from racist people. That's what I was informed of, if I've got the history right. That's how it started out. Okay, and you see, we lost our way. This is a perfect example. I got to do a video of this. This is a perfect example how you can see that mentalities have changed and mentalities went wrong. We went from protecting the neighborhood as gangs from racist people to now banging on each other as far as ethnicity. So we go from protecting the neighborhoods from white people, racist white people, to now shooting black people and innocent kids and people, teenagers and all of that. Old people too. They get killed too. We don't talk about that. How some of these senior citizens get killed too. You know they do. How don't they? Okay. But that's all we have really now is a lot of gangs and posses. You know what I'm saying? 10-man posse, 5-man posse. We got more thugs, than any thugs too. Some men that like to go, two guys together. That's it. That's how they like it. That's thugs to me. And that's more how, I'm gonna be honest, how I like it. It's just me and another person. Because it's more simple that way. They can't be manipulated. You know what I'm saying? It's like even when one more person comes into the situation, manipulation can happen. because that other person can be talking and, you know what I'm saying, talking in their ear, talking about what you could do and this and that and the third. And now you got to worry about what they talking about on their own. Now, with another person, with two guys that's already doing real crimes, they're going to build a real, sincere bond. You feel me? Their bond is going to be sincere and real. It's not your realness of bond is going to cancel out any thoughts of crossing that person. It's when you're constantly faced with that person, you're going to be more focused on, I'm going to do the right thing. You know what I mean? It's like a relationship. But if I was doing any crimes, it's all, I like two-man situation. Two-man situation, nothing more than that. You know what I mean? Somebody that's kind of my opposite, and it works because it just works like that. You know what I'm saying? And so, two-man group that's your opposite. So you are each other's opposites. That's how that would be my, if talking about those type of situations, that would be my ideal situation. But as far as a mafia goes, the reason why, like I said, they're gonna prevent it. And another thing is we're just too ratchet to get it. You know what I'm saying? Because in our community, we pride ourselves on being ratchet. We pride ourselves on going and shooting up 2-3 houses, shooting up a whole block. We pride ourselves on that. And that prevents us from getting a mafia. That prevents us from being the mob, you know, and in our case, the mob may have been an answer in the secular world, the non-spiritual world, the non-religious world. The mafia may have been the answer in protecting the African American community, and they would have never let it happen. This is what you gotta think about. How come we don't have it? How come? I'm sure many drug dealers have thought about it. I'm pretty sure of that. I'm pretty sure many hustlers have sit up and thought about it. Why isn't there, instead of gangs, why isn't there a nationwide mafia with different chapters? Right? And the reason why is because, first of all, the main foundation reason is they watching and they making sure nothing like that happens. That's why East Coast and West Coast are not together. They may make money together to a degree, but their forces are not really together. It's not like, in all cases, California chapters in general, ethnicity-wise, can rely on black people in New York. It gotta be something in it for them. It gotta be something in it. Now, what it should be is there's a good black mafia chapters in California that can communicate with good black chapters of mafia here in New York. That's non-criminal, that's not in the crime underworld, that can make better living for black community. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a crime. It doesn't have to be criminal in nature. It's a guard and guardians for better living for the black community collectively. But as you notice, California and New York, the only way they come together is if they getting money. Now that they don't mind that. You know, you go to New York, you from New York, you come over there and you got to hustle where we can, people can get money together. You can get money with people. Boom. Ain't nobody got a problem with that. And who would? They ain't got no problem with that. But when it comes to overall community, and then we get into the wirings of environments, And now we have an organization that will bring the environment to another level in California and bring the environment to another level in New York. And that's what their main agendas are. That's where we get lost. People get money together, but they do not uh, change the conditions of the community for Black people. They don't change the conditions. Most people are just getting money. That's all it's about. And I'm gonna do a video on that. It's all about people getting money these days. They'll get money together. You got people that go state to state getting bread. They go out of state, they get with Black people in another state. You know what I'm saying? But it's all for money. It's not let us make the environment better for our families. Let us make chapters here and there in all 50 states and in all these cities too on top of that. Let us make these chapters of Black Mafia, a Black mob, to better our community, which should have been thought about, like I said. But I think many people have thought about it, especially real hustlers. They've thought about it. You know, businessmen, they've thought about it. But the main problem is the prevention of the government, the FBI, CIA, and our quality, our character. I got to be 100. You know what I'm saying? You can't be the mob as a thug. A thug works for the mob. That's 7 Al. Boom. Thugs work for the mob. Let's understand the chain of command. Thugs work for the mob. They work for gangsters. Goons, what you call goons, are not the mob. So what you have in the Black community is, that's why it is the way it is. And this is going to really, when I say it like this, you're going to be like, wow, that's true. What you have is, without a mob in the Black community, you have no mob and nothing but goons and thugs, as who would be working for the mob. And so that mentality of thugs that are goons is just, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm a gun for hire, shoot them up, I'm on the run, I'm moving quick. There is no ethics. Among thugs and goons, there are no true ethics. Mobs can sit down and build restaurants, playgrounds. They can sit down and build all type of stuff, schools even. Goons and thugs, which are the strong armors, the enforcers. You're more used to that term. The enforcers, they go around just handling physical business, warfare business, military business for the mob. And so what happened in the Black community is all we formed was goons and thugs with no mob. Now you see what I'm saying? And that's why you have all the killing and all of that. And so what this formed into was more gang banging and gangster and all of that. That's when the goon decided to be organized. That's when the thugs and goons decided to be organized, but they still didn't rise to the heights of a mob because their mentality was not to build anything, restaurants or anything. Their mentality was still the mentality of goons and thugs, not the mentality of the mob. So you may have gangs, and now they may be different. Crips may be different now. Bloods may be like the mob now. But look, it's years and years, decades later. It's with all these casualties. You know what I'm saying? And all in all, it's ultimately still a thug and goon mentality and not a mob mentality. You know what I'm saying? And now, and white people, white racist people, controllers understand this. As long as black people do not become the mob, we're good. As long as they stay thugs and goons, and they're good, we're good, because that's not going to create anything. Thugs and goons is every man for himself. It's an all out war. It's like a world war in the ghetto. That's what it's like, a nationwide war among black people. Nothing but thugs and goons. That's it. Ain't no mafia. Ain't no mob. So now you see the difference. Because at the end of the day, I'm absolutely right. A mob had henchmen, right? Right or wrong? They had henchmen, right? Which was the equivalent of thugs. They had goons that would go and kill people, but they wouldn't get their hands dirty. The goons would. That's the people that was actually doing the killing, was the goons. That's who was doing the killing. Okay, so that's what our community consists of. Goons with no mob. And that's why no one answers to anybody. That's why there's reckless killings everywhere. That's why all of this is going on. Because it's a whole nation that is at war with each other, because there is no mob to be accountable to. It's certain people that may have, enough power to make, surrounding community to a degree be accountable, but it's not chapters and chapters of accountability, if you will. And that's the problem. That's the problem. And a real mob, like I said, that had been the black mob, the African American mob, it would have fought for equality here in America. Russian mob wouldn't have done that. It wouldn't have made sense. Other mobs wouldn't have done that. But uniquely, the African American mob would have fought against racist white people and the racist white system. Now you see what I'm saying? And this is why we're in the shape that we're in, because the whole time they had a whole system just doing whatever they want to do. They had complete power over the whole country. And all we had was goons and goons and thugs at war nationwide. That's all we had. Meanwhile, they had power like the mob. They had some would say the Italian mob was with the whites. They were. And I know people like to differentiate and say, well, the Italians are not white Americans, but let's be 100. Let's be 100. Put two and two together. If the Italian mob have been working all throughout America with different chapters, you don't think they was working with white people when they look white themselves? I'm just saying. They look more white than anything. They can pass for a white guy. That's what, you don't think white people gonna embrace that a little bit and look at that? When most racist white people, what they really looking at is that dark complexion. You don't think they consider that as themselves European? And so you could say that the Italian mob was the American mob. That's 7 hours. You can kind of say that. That you can also say that the mob was kind of the white man's mob. Think about it now. You don't think they did something for the white man? Of course they did. As big, all them chapters, you don't think it covered white families and white community, all that stuff that the mob was doing? It didn't cover white community. It just dealt with only Italians. Of course, being here in America, you think the white man gonna let that just run around? That's how you know. Because white Americans are not going to let the Italian mob be like that, independent of them. No, it's not going to happen. They coexist, they work together. That's what it was. And at times they had common cause. That's another good point. At times, white America and the Italian mob had common cause, which means basically that the mafia, the Italian mafia was utilized for white men and white community. Which is safe to say, basically, they had a mob. Meanwhile, you black people, we didn't have that perspective. We didn't know how to go about it because the first thing we think is we're gonna have to go to war with people that are racist. We're not thinking about, well, let's start businesses and gain power that way. We're thinking, let's kill in order to overpower those who are oppressing us. Killing and violence was the first thoughts, which is normal, but was not the solution in a whole big country. The solution would have been to get to have a protective organization that builds communities, bakeries, restaurants, schools, everything. And if anyone challenges it, then the byproduct of that challenge is war. The response, the corresponding action to that challenge is war. Okay, not the first thing you go do and hop out here. Remind you're the mob. You got businesses, bakeries, schools. You're not trying to go out here and shoot nobody too quickly. But if it comes down to it, just like any man that protects his family, then what are you going to do? So understand this. Protecting your family is something that you should do and God wants you to do. Do not let the American community make you a docile worker that does not think in terms of protecting your family and you depend on only police and military for your protection. You have to think about protecting yourself, you, especially being black. And this is a mentality that they do not allow us to build on because they feel it will be a threat for you to arm yourselves and for you to think as to harm those who harm you. They think that this mentality is a threat against them because they know they are the enemy. They know they have done things as an enemy. So why would they want someone that they have harmed to arm themselves with guns and militant mentality? They don't want you to arm. They harmed you. They don't want you to arm yourself with guns and militant mentality. And so that's why the culture is so docile, because it's a form of control. It's to control your response and your movements, to make you non-militant. And if anybody is militant, that's the person that's singled out in your community, the militant person. When we live in the crazy world that we live in, when we live in the crazy country that we live in, you are not allowed to be a militant without being questioned, like you're a terrorist. If you become too militant, the American community will think you're a terrorist. That's what it is. Yet, meanwhile, over in racist white rural America, you got whole white militias, armed, shooting, know how to shoot the guns, doing trainings and everything. But let a black person do it, oh, they're a terrorist. So these white militias don't have the potential to be terrorists when they don't like what America stands for in the first place? Well, most of these racist white militias do not like what America stands for now. So that's not a threat against your community now? That's here now? That's what I'm showing you. That's what I'm showing you. It's all good for them to do that, what they do though. But you do it, you a terrorist. You a terrorist. And look at their ideals. At the end of the day, they have a mentality to go to war with this country, right? Because they feel the ideals of this country are not good. So that's not a borderline terrorist right there. Somebody that at any point could just be pushed over the edge, that don't like your ideals, don't like what you stand for, don't agree with all this intermingling of the ethnicities. That's not borderline a terrorist that you should keep your eyes on. That's what I'm trying to show you. But let you start something. Oh, you a terrorist. And you ain't even shoot no guns. These white militias are shooting guns. This is what I'm trying to show you. Anytime a black community or black individuals stand up and rise up, they are threats. That's how it is. Because they already know they wronged you. They just like me. They already know what time it is. That's why they got to watch me. Because they already know they wronged me. You know what I'm saying? So what you think my mentality gonna be? You feel me? That's why, and I gotta do a video on this. That's why they keep people in the hood, everything. They keep their eyes on you. They already know they wronged you. Now they're gonna keep their eyes on you. The ghetto is nothing but a surveillance system to keep their eyes on black people. How else could they do it? If you went out among their community, look at it from a military perspective. If black people went out among white neighborhoods and lived among white people, they would not be able to put you under real surveillance as an ethnicity. The whole thing is to keep you under surveillance. The ghetto should have been gone at least by the 1990s. Let's put it like this. By the year 2000, there should have been no ghettos after they seen all the gang banging, all the drug selling, and all the crack cocaine and all of that. They have 23 years into the millennium. They have made no steps to get rid of the ghetto. The ghetto is nothing more but storage for African Americans and to keep you under surveillance as a community. That's what it is. They're not going to let you go. After they've wronged you, they're going to put you under surveillance to see what you're going to do next. They know they wronged you. They know they wronged me. That's why they watching. They waiting for the repercussions. And listen, they already got it. COVID-19, your country's out of whack. You lost Donald Trump. He got indicted. You're losing your strength. Now you ain't, man, listen. Anybody that think Donald Trump still has a chance, listen, don't hold your breath. That's all I'm saying. Don't hold your breath. I don't care who is he. He could be connected to the mob himself. He probably is. Being here from New York, probably. But it doesn't matter. They're not going to be able to manipulate the electoral college and the electoral vote. They can't manipulate that. The mob can't even manipulate that. Not these days. Not these days. Maybe in the past. Ain't nobody listen to the Italian mob when it comes to the electoral vote. No, not these days. Maybe in the past, but not these days. Because all white America got to do, if the mob don't want to sit down, all they got to do is put the military on them. National Guard or some type of military special agent force. And they don't want that kind of problem. You know what I'm saying? The American military is more sophisticated to where the mob doesn't threaten like they once did. That's right. They shut that down easily. And remind you, like I said, the Italian mob coexisted. It exists because it worked for white America. If it didn't, they would have sent the military. It worked. And that was the corruption that you don't want to come to terms with, is that the mob worked with the white community and the government too. This is what you don't want to admit. They basically, ironically, the mob became goons and thugs for the government. The mob had goons and thugs as well, but it the mob as an organization became the thugs and goons for the government. Ironically, the Italian mob had part in conspiring and doing the footwork against Martin Luther King Jr. This is why I have lost respect for them as an organization. Okay. And I'm sure it obviously wasn't every chapter. I'm sure it wasn't every boss. I'm sure everybody wasn't on board for it. Many people may have felt like they're not going to be involved and they wasn't involved. But the bottom line is, as a organization, the Italian mob was involved in the thug goon part of conspiring against Martin Luther King Jr. The American government didn't want to bring in their institutions, even though Edgar Hoover, the head of the FBI, was gang stalking basically Martin Luther King Jr., where he sent tapes to his wife where he was having sex. You know, when it came to the goon work, when it came to the foot soldiers, the Italian mob was selected. Okay, so that's why I don't have the same respect for them as I once did, or I don't look at them the same way now that I know this information. You know what I mean? And you should have known that, okay, go back to what I said. If the white Americans was using the Italian mafia, you know they were going to be caught up doing something against black people. Think about it now. Think about it. If the white Americans are utilizing in the 60s and the 70s and all them times, 50s and 60s, if they utilizing the Italian mob for their purposes, give and take, you do this for me, I do this for you, right? You don't think they had some operations, racist as white America was, that were against targeting African Americans? Of course it was. And that definitely wasn't the only that wasn't the only operation that the Italian mob had against African Americans. So they just jumped to that they just jumped to that operation of assassinating Martin Luther King Jr. Of course they didn't. They had more little operations against black people that you do not know. Of course they did. They had more operations against black people. The Italian mob had more operations than you realize against black people. Of course they did. They probably had an operation against Malcolm X and the Black Panthers, because they could do the footwork. They could do all that footwork and save the integrity or save the detection of government. You know what I mean? If they get caught, okay, something happens, the government's gonna look out. That's their safety net. Okay, if we get caught up in this and you sent us, then obviously, we need you to look out. So that's what gives the confidence, is that you're working for the system that would hold you to the responsibilities of what you're doing. If you're working for the system that would hold you responsible for what you're doing, you're good. That's probably what built the confidence, and this is probably what made them do many, many things that we would never know. But you can say that if the Italian mafia was involved with Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, then what that tells you everything you need to know. They was doing all type of operations against black people. Of course they were, because the American government had utilized them there. You know they utilized them other places. Think about it. Okay? And we never had a black mob to fight back. And the main reason we couldn't have one is because it's the ratchet culture has taken over. Men are ratchet, women are ratchet, children are ratchet. And we think that means we're the mob. We think that means we're gangster. And all it ends up every single time is us in jail, in prison, or worse. You know what I mean? And I would even say that powers that be made sure that we would not become mob-minded, so that we would stay ratchet and stay goons and be in all-out war against each other. If we had become mob-minded, we would have unified. That's 7 hour. If we had become mob-minded, it would have been unity. Black killings would have stopped, because the forefront of our purposes would have been money, organizations, and building up our community, not the byproduct, which is shooting and gang wars and wars. You see what I'm saying? We would have became more unified. So I think they manipulated through the culture, through the music, to make sure that we stayed goon mentality and thug mentality. This is what they did. Because if you would have became mob mentality, a byproduct of that would have been unification in the black community, strengthening of black communities, restaurants, and monies, businesses, black businesses, huge businesses. Look how many businesses the Mafia owns. They own 1 million Italian restaurants, for crying out loud. Think about it. All across the country, those are mob restaurants. You could look at the owners and tell. They stand around like gangsters. Think about it. Like you owe them some attention, and it's telltale sign. Now think about if you had the black mob, it would take care of all the street punks out here playing games, shooting kids. You know who would take care of that? If you had the black mob, you know who would take care of these wayward gangbangers that's out here shooting these kids and stuff? The black mob would take care of that. And they would put, this is what I've been saying a long time ago, they would put pressure. The new standard of living in the ghetto, in the hoods, and everywhere would be, if you get caught, if you are responsible for killing kids, we're going to kill members of your family. That's what we're going to do. Members of your family, your favorite auntie, your favorite uncles, your favorite cousins are going to die because you killed children. Unfortunately, one thing that is definitely for sure with humanity is if you do not have severe consequences, people will act like clowns. Word. Straight up and down. If you don't look at the situation for what it is. The police, the judicial system does not put no pressure on the black community because they don't want to offend nobody. And the big dogs in the community don't put no pressure because they just don't. They part of the ratchet community themselves. It's a form of hypocrisy if they try to say something. Because more big dogs, they you might be a little more sophisticated, but you still got that ratchet mentality too. If we had started putting pressure, like if we set a new standard of principles that nationwide, that all these killings that wind up killing kids, if there's any people who pose as assassins and they go out as though, because I go beyond that killer mentality, the thug mentality, all of that, gangs and all of that. I look at you for what it technically is. You are an assassin. Now you see why everybody shouldn't want to be one. Why you want to be an assassin? You feel me? It takes a certain type of person to even be like that. But yet in our culture, everyone wants to be an assassin. You know? And if we had if we had mob people that say, okay, if there's people out here that are assassins, posing as assassins, and they're shooting up in all kind of people and in families and stuff, and that didn't deserve to happen like that, then unfortunately, we're going to execute members of their family. A minimum of 2 people are going to die from their family. More than one person. And that would have changed the whole climate on the streets. The assassins would have been accurate and waited patiently to attack their enemies. They wouldn't be going all ratchet everywhere. Because if you wind up killing a kid, shooting through houses and stuff as some wayward bushwhack assassin, then your family is going to suffer as a result. This is how you change the climates of the streets. This is what mobs do. They offer real consequences. This is what brings order. Even in the crime world, if you do not have order, it's a circus. You have to have order, even in the crime world, ironically. And so that should be the standard. If people go shoot babies up, shoot families up, innocent old people, stuff like that, okay, then unfortunately, you're going to lose somebody from your family. You're going to lose 2 family members, buddy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And the rest of the people will tremble in fear when they see that's real. So the reason why the ghetto is the way it is because there's no black mob chapters over each city. That's what it is. That's why it is the way it is. You know what I'm saying? That's why the chaos is so real, because it's nothing but thug world, gangster world, goon world, thug world and goon world. That's what it is. And but if there was mobs, then everyone would feel accountable to this mob. There would be accountability in these worst of neighborhoods, because the mob will come and shut everybody down. No matter how ratchet people think they are, no matter about the hot block, the block that think they the hottest and all of that, that gets shut down by the black mob. Just like that. And you ain't gonna challenge it. It's too many chapters. It's nationwide chapters. You ain't gonna challenge that. If they can't win, they're gonna bring in reinforcements like the military. They're gonna keep coming at you like the military till they win. That's what the military do. That's why you know you're controlled. Because here in America, you can think you the baddest, the toughest. But if you go to war by physical means, see, I did it by spiritual means. This is the deliverance. This is why the deliverance is here. But if you do it by physical means, you go to war with the government or anything, they're going to send military until you're neutralized like a target. See, I think in the militant mentality. If they can't beat you by the police, they probably can beat you by the police. Most people, unless you are a super Rambo type of person. Most of you cannot beat the police. Okay? But if you do, they might send in SWAT after that, maybe, I think. And then from there comes the National Guard. Now you're dealing with the big boys. And if they can't beat you from there, then they're just going to send a drone attack and it's over. I'm showing you how far it goes. If you were to physically oppose the American government, they're going to use they're going to use police, probably SWAT, then military, all branches of the military. If by some miracle it doesn't work, then a drone attack, up to date to the times we live in, a drone attack is next, and they're going to just send in. They're going to hit you from a satellite base. It's going to be a satellite attack, basically, and the drone is going to come in and neutralize you as a target. You're going to now fight a robot, and then you will lose. If they lose physically, manually as humans, they're going to send in a robot to kill you. Now you see why it's so necessary for people to not play games with leaders like me. We're winning this war without having to fight military, police, SWAT, all branches of the military. That's why we crushing any fool that challenges this. Because it's too important and we couldn't win any other way. This would never happen again. This will never happen again. Which means you may be in captivity forever. You may be in captivity for 1,000 years if you don't win now. If the streets don't win now, if black people don't win this war now against America, if you don't win now, you may be in captivity for 1,000 years. And you're going to be sitting back talking about, well, we should have listened to Marcello. He had it. That's why I'm saying, let me do what I do. Because what makes my war unique is I don't have to fight with physical weapons. The highest levels of art of war is to fight without weapons. I have found information that makes them forfeit their integrity. This is why I'm using the 43 states of child marriage constantly, repeatedly in my videos, because this is the information that makes us win. Military can't beat that. I don't care what you got. I don't care how you think. When you realize that you've been serving in a country with 43 states of child marriage, your integrity is going to make you turn your back on this country. Same thing with police. Now you see what I'm saying. Same thing with police. When you realize you've been enforcing laws for a country that has 43 states of child marriage laws, you're turning your back. That's what you're going to do as a good man or a good woman. You're turning your back. It's no way you can work one more day. I don't care if it's by means of family, whatever you're talking about. 43 states of child marriage, you can't stomach working for a system like that. That's why I'm trying to show you how unique this war is. And the dummies are sitting around thinking I'm harping on the same thing, oblivious to the weapon that I'm using. You feel the way you feel because you're a citizen. The military is not, you don't understand their honor codes because you don't have them. You don't have honor codes. Police have honor codes that they live and die by. You have no honor codes. Many of you American citizens, you don't have any honor codes that you live and die by. You're just going to live at all costs like the gang stalkers. You're just going to live at all costs like secret societies. You don't have a point where you say, well, I think this is the time that death is necessary. And I'm talking about you. You should feel like death is necessary now. That lets me know you do not have honor codes where you feel like it's nothing else you should do. You should just die. Me, I'm just getting warmed up. Look at the information I'm producing. It ain't time for me to die. See, if you feel the feeling in the air, the real feeling is it's time for the gang stalkers to die. They're fighting the feeling like bratty little children. It's time for them to die. They don't see that though, because they don't have any honor codes. Now, when it comes to the police and it comes to the military, when they see that they have 43 states of child marriage and they never knew this whole time, they're going to stick to their honor codes and cease from America. Okay? That's why my ward is so unique from everybody else and what they're doing. I don't have to go out here politicking. I don't have to go out here shooting around, bucking people down. I don't have to do all of that because this war is a fresh, flawless victory. Why would I mess it all up? I got 43 states of child marriage on the American government, and your community is completely opposed to it, and I know they are. As soon as they find this out, as soon as military find this out, as soon as police find this out, it's over. Now you see why I'm moving like this. Now you see why I'm constantly restating this, bringing this information to you over and over again. It's a campaign of war. Okay, and why I'm saying this to you, look, my enemies that are ratchet, my enemies that sit around in hood politics, three-piece chicken, biscuit eating politicians. Listen, man, listen, I'm too far up there, right, for you to play with, bro. This is way more serious than you, okay? And you don't matter when it comes to this situation. So if God sees you and God sees me, all that clown stuff aside, who you think gonna die? Of course you gonna die, because you ain't doing nothing. You ain't doing nothing here. The spiritual, the God sees no use for you in the universe. That's what my enemies need to understand. You are gassing yourself, but at the end of the day, there is no use for you in the universe. As opposed to me, I'm constantly, look at my videos, I'm constantly offering solutions. A person that offers solutions is more valuable than your children. Okay, are you going to save a little child, or are you going to save a person that's offering solutions to your community? Nah, be 100 now. When it comes down to real military, real war, in real situations of preservation of a community, preserving a community, you're going to save a little child, or are you going to preserve a person that naturally is inclined to have solutions? Just naturally. I just do it naturally. I don't study a million books. I just naturally, because I'm led by the Holy Ghost, I'm naturally able to give real solutions and show you real situations. So when man sees me, you think he'll preserve a child over my life? You think the military will preserve a child over their leader? If it's a tough situation, but if it came down to a child and your leader, who has to die? You think that the American military is going to let a child live and let Joe Biden die? I'm talking about from their perspective too. You think the military trained to kill, trained to preserve their leadership, trained to preserve their community. You think they're going to let a child live? This is the difference between men and boys, guys. You think they're going to let a child live and a leader die? Joe Biden going to die because of a child. And the child just lives, but Joe Biden's dead. That's how you think. Military people don't think like that. I would even say God does not think like that. You think God is going to let, if King David was in the Bible, you think God would have let King David die and let a child, some random child live? That's what I'm trying to show you. So if that's the case with a child, how much more with these musty old people out here? Now you see what I'm saying? That's the punchline. You an old musty person playing with me. You think this community hearing what I produce and my information gonna let you live or let me die or let me live? You're not doing anything. So in actuality, I beat you by value. I beat you I beat my enemies and their organizations by value, the value that I am, the quality that I am. That's why it pays even in warfare to be high quality, because that's going to beat your enemies. If other countries see that, hey, this person is more valuable than those punks riding around eating McDonald's thinking everything's a game, who cares about those people? And we see a man in his room telling us stuff we didn't even know. So now you have secret enemies that you don't know about because of my value. You know what I'm saying? So true masters of war take heed to that. Increasing your value is a war tactic, because in times of war, you're going to be more valuable to keep alive than your enemies. Nobody don't care about them. They ain't doing nothing. All they doing is riding around haughty, and that time is gone. The prideful American time is gone. You got COVID-19. Half these people done had it. You know what I mean? How many people done had it? Millions. Over 60 plus million Americans have had COVID. You know how much 60 million people look like in an open area? 60 million people? Listen, man, it ain't no room for them goofy people, bro. It's no room for them. That's what I'm trying to show you. The global community, I'm gonna put it like this. The global community has to kill who needs to be killed. Listen, this is the law of the jungle. This is not being a serial killer. This is not being a psycho. In war, many times we can hit below the belt when it comes to war. But overall, the mentality is not of a psycho. It's preservation of humanity. You have to kill, and unfortunately, gang stalkers, these secret societies, the Freemasons that's responsible for gang stalking, the Illuminati that's responsible for organized gang stalking, they have to be neutralized as targets. It has to happen because they threaten humanity. And my value is more than their value. Their value are what is what? What? They're gonna sit around and have sex? Sit around and eat and have sex to the end of the world? Sit around and smoke weed and drink? Acting like college kids? Most of them acting like college kids. What is that worth? And you are just procrastinating on the inevitable, which is they have to die. They want to play relentless games in your community. White entitled American Freemasons and all types of other ethnicities of Freemasons walk around like entitled college kids playing with your community for fun. That has to die. Okay, it sticks out, right? As far as flow of community, life, positivity, it contrasts that, right? It has to go. And you're all just procrastinating the inevitable because they present themselves as little college kids with the little jerseys on with the numbers on them. We're just we're a little fraternity. That's how they present themselves to you, like college kids fraternities. Meanwhile, they're doing military style gang stalking operations. That's what they're doing. And they have to be neutralized as a target. And if you don't do it, God is going to do it. And when God does it, more people are going to suffer than you wanted to suffer. I'm telling you. So it's better for you to realize, okay, I got to do a video about this. You've come to another level of barbaric community, barbaric, evil community. And now you have to fight fire with fire. And America is nowhere near prepared to be that type of community. You're too docile and passive as a community to neutralize people that deserve to be removed from our community. Okay? You're too docile of a community. You feel like you have to be accountable to too many people. And that's why you're not going to make it in the future, because all these little bratty, look at the people that's doing the killings. Look at that transgender. Should have been somewhere at home, right? 28 years old. Look at the age and everything. It's an entitled, that person represents an entitled mentality. Like, if I don't get my way in life, I'm going to go shoot people. So what do you do in the case of that? When you have these people that sit around evil and can order deaths like a Domino's pizza. Okay, what do you do in cases like that? When they play with your community, you have to come up to another level of understanding that the only way I'm going to beat this is that we have to neutralize, we have to come up to, as a community, to another level of response to evil in our community. And it can't be, oh, the same little smack on the wrist. You have to give 20 years for crimes that involve kids being killed, pushing people on trains. Look how it is. It's a circus. And the whole reason those people can feel they can do stuff like that is because there is no real severe punishment. That's another place you need to bring up severe punishment. And I've been telling you that in the law system. If they knew they was going to get 20 years for pushing somebody on a train and killing them, all of that culture would be gone. The only reason that's all going on because you have not updated yourself to the evil of your community by severe punishment. And you have to also upgrade your response with the gang stalkers. That right there has to cease to be, because their technicality is, where we're not doing anything, they still got to die, because they're bringing too much problems to the community. They're bringing a response from God. As a prophet, I'm telling you that. The gang stalking is the reason the American community has COVID-19. It's the reason. Because God did something about it. You didn't do anything about it. And he's still doing something about it because you're doing nothing about it. And it's not a game. Anybody know that? Life is not no game. I guess they've been misinformed. That's how you know it's college kid, teenager mentality. You know what I mean? Like, thinking it's a game, bro. Like, I've never been goofy like that. I've never been like that. Never in my life. I've been hilarious. I'm funny. And funny people realize they don't got to be goofy. You know what I'm saying? It's sometimes people that don't have a sense of humor that are the goofy people. Because in your attempt to be funny, you become goofy, which is awkward humor that only you find funny. So it's just like, many of these gang stalkers are goofy. I'm funny. I'm hilarious. I don't have to look how I talk. Look how easy. But they're goofy. And this goofiness, I've always despised goofy people. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a difference between being a goofball. That's still a humorous person. A goofy person attempts to be humorous and silly, but no one's laughing. Like real people are not laughing, bro. And now war is on you. Now COVID-19 is on you. You know what I mean? And no one's laughing. You know what I mean? And it's just like God is going to knock that stupid smirk off their faces. That's what's going to happen. And listen, I am not built to play games. And I proved it. I've been proved it. I proved it 4 years ago. I do not play games, bro. That's why I'm still here today. And if America think it's going to be here anymore or the next day, it has to understand you have to destroy what needs to be destroyed. That's it. You got to destroy what needs to be destroyed. Okay? No one finds it funny. No one's playing. There should be consequences, just like anybody else. Playing psychological games with the community, hey, I don't care who you're used by. If it takes other countries to come in to discipline the Americans for using gang stalkers in their community, whatever it takes, however far we got to go up to the chain of command in the global community, the Americans have to be punished for using gang stalkers as psychological warfare, using all type of psychological warfare. It has to happen. And listen, I'm not going to perish and be assassinated like other people were when they wanted to go to the UN. A lot of people feel like Malcolm X was assassinated because he was planning to go to the UN. He wanted to talk to the UN or something to that effect. Okay, listen. I'm beyond being assassinated. I'm not going to die. I promise you that. What you're going to see this time is that the good guy wins and that many of you will perish for me. Okay? Many of you will perish. It's not the same ball game it used to be. It's not the same ball game. I know you know this in terms of what you're doing, but you don't know it in terms of people being assassinated. It's not the same ball game. If they see that you're more of the problem, you're going to die. I'm sorry to tell you. And you got 43 states of child marriage, and you went around the country insinuating others were into pedophilia and all of this, and the truth is you got child marriage here. It's no hope for you. You know what I'm saying? You can bow out gracefully and get money for people, which that's what even the American government does that. If they incarcerate someone unjustly, they get the bag. They get the money. No questions asked. They don't look at it as humiliation. They look at it as justice and them saving themselves integrity concerning the situation of incarcerating someone who was not guilty. You look at it as some big game because you're a child and you can't come to terms with giving the person the money because you feel that's a form of losing your game. American government doesn't look at it like that. They look at it as saving their integrity, playing after a dumb move, which some would make it equivalent of a game. Okay, so yeah, the black mafia never came because, like I told you, the community would have tried to prevent it. We were too ratchet to get it, and that's why it is the way it is, But that would have been the solution. We would have went to war with the white racists, and we would have been in a whole different situation.